I would like to maybe to ask this question to you, Romit. Is this a question that usually people are really dishonest about, and I would like you to be honest? It's, how are you today?
Oh, me, the person?
Yes, how are you?
I would say if it was a bit more sunny here, I would have really appreciated. But Luxembourg is quite rainy, so comme si comme ça. But overall, not bad. I mean, from a work standpoint, life standpoint, thank you. Doing quite well.
It's great, because usually people focus too much like on one direction. So as you say, life or work, but I can see that you're saying like you seem to be balanced. So this is great, and I think we are very happy for this. Let's start. So here, would like you, for those who haven't Googled you, haven't been on LinkedIn and checking your profile, checking out your profile, could you just maybe introduce yourself? I know that you have a very interesting background, so if you could just introduce yourself shortly, just for us to understand where you're coming from, what are maybe the key elements or the key milestones in your, I would say, in your career, and where do you stand currently, and how does it a bit wraps up all together or bounce all together?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, Clément, for inviting. Really appreciate. And it's of course a small but intimate forum where you can exchange ideas. So really glad to be here. Thanks for inviting. My name is Romit. Most friends call me Rom. I'm originally born in Eastern India, but most of my family is in San Jose in California. Bunch of Indian engineers who went to US in 90s, and then they all worked for Google, Amazon, Yahoo, all those companies. Yeah, living the American tech dream. I'm an electronics engineer by profession, and I also have a business degree from INSEAD Business School in France. And my career, I started off in 2007. Gosh, that's a long time back. I started in 2007 when Google was entering Asia. I was one of their first analysts, which was a lot of fun because a lot of t-shirt, free food, and sometimes work in between. But yeah, it was quite fun doing a market entry for that time, the most well-known company in the planet. Still is, but yeah, in those early days, there used to be a lot more glamour in big tech. Then I worked for Procter & Gamble, which is another American company, and I was involved in their IP transfer, commercializing hard science. And then I did an MBA from INSEAD Business School in France. And after that, my primary career, I joined Amazon, and that brought me to Luxembourg, which is a lovely small city, but people don't usually come here other than for business. And my first job here was growing Amazon to Central Europe marketplace. And then I worked for Amazon Web Services. That I did for 2.5 years. And right before COVID, I teamed up with a Danish ex-colleague, and we started a company called SoftBrick in conversational AI. And that's what I have been doing as of now. And other than running SoftBrick as the CEO, I am also an external advisor to the European Commission for the upcoming Artificial Intelligence Act, and that also keeps me busy. Plus, I also do mentoring for new companies, especially in the University of Luxembourg, where they have a lot of PhD and a lot of hard science. So yeah, those are my different hats.
Okay, so now we can see that everyone is kind of envious and jealous of you, saying, "Oh my God, oh my God!" Like it's the Google, Procter, Amazon, now advisor to the EU.
Thank you. Yes. Most of it was dumb luck. Most of it was just dumb luck. Being right place at the right time is 90% of it.
Okay, so what I really caught my attention with your profile and where you currently are at is that, first of all, yes, you saw those kind of like it's not more than big names. So those are really those companies that shaped actually really like completely industries like Google, of course, Amazon, and Procter & Gamble. And now involved with like in AI and like very much in AI and conversational AI, which is my belief really the future of customer interaction and user interaction. And so what I wanted to understand is this, is we have seen giant leaps over the last 6 months, particularly 6 months or like a year, but for us, like really more on the user side with ChatGPT. In the last 6 months, we started to really understand what was at stake. Not later than 2 weeks ago, I saw that a company, I believe in France or in Germany, they fired basically 257 employees because they simply say, well, we can simply replace them with a AI ChatGPT based software, and they replace their work. 257 were laid off. So it's something that was probably for you, as you were working so close with those topics many years, for Oli, for the previous years, something like would come, but now we start to really see the impact. So here, what I would like to is a bit to understand from what you're seeing, what you're observing, and with what you know, where are we really heading to? Let's say simply in 2 years, let's say 2025. In 2 years, where how really this generative AI, what we are seeing, so generative AI would really impact the way SaaS solutions, business model, SaaS solutions work, and how, in fact, what's the trend, where are we heading to, and what can we are all customer success really interested or customer centric people here. So what should we really know, what is coming up, and maybe in terms of best practices, what do you think we should maybe start to learn right now in order to get ready for what's coming?
Fantastic question. So I tend to ponder on this because I'm sure all of us read fairly about these topics. And I often have the privilege, especially at a policymaker level, to exchange information with some of the senior policymaker. For example, last week only, we had a dinner with the team that has drafted the AI Act over the last 24 months. They have done more than 155 revisions. So I think, and this is just my hypothesis, okay? My hypothesis is that yes, there is going to be tremendous leap in terms of technical advances. Companies like ours who are using various technical empowerment processes. However, it's a bit too early to replace human beings or use language vocabulary like that. Okay. Why? Especially in customer interaction. So if you look at AI revolution, I'll take a step back. There are 3 pillars, and it's extremely critical that all of us understand these 3 pillars. The first pillar has got nothing to do with software. It's hardware. It's got to do with silicon, cobalt. It's got to do with the microchip. Right now we are speaking between us. There is 15 to 20 microchip in all the devices we are using. Everything we are doing is via microchip. Okay. That's why in the AI rush, the biggest benefactor till now has been NVIDIA. Right. So that's the first part. That's the finite resource. We need to be aware of that. And there are geopolitical consequences of that. That's part 1. Part 2 is data. And this is where it gets more and more interesting. There is a lot of discussion around data sovereignty, okay, at a national level, at a company level. And I think my hypothesis is that companies have now become extremely guarded because giving data to OpenAI literally means taking your internal information and dumping it on Microsoft. Okay, most companies have become wary of that, and most of the frontline leading companies are wary of that. Remember, to train these models and to keep them updated, okay, it takes a tremendous amount of both computational power on the hardware side, but also data in training side. Otherwise, your bot, whatever you make it, will become irrelevant. Okay. And then the third part are all the models. So people tend to focus too much on the models and not on the first 2 parts, hardware and the data fortress. So because of the finite limitations around this, because of geopolitics, because of national company restriction, I actually think the models, while they may be very efficient in the ideal world to almost replicate humans, they would actually not be there in the next 2 years. And pretty much like what happened after COVID, if you remember, we said everybody will work remotely, but now we have come to an hybrid state. So my sense is, my hypothesis is that there will be a hybrid model where we will use bots for the simple interactions, forget password, all that stuff. Okay. But Clement is traveling today from Switzerland. He has to go to Phoenix, Arizona. From there, he has to take a flight to Taiwan and then come back. Good luck with ChatGPT solving your ticketing problem. It will not. So there will be, that's my hypothesis. So to cut a long story short, I think there will be more and more hybrid customer interactions where some of the easy part of it will be handled by chatbots, and some agents will get replaced. But the better customer service executive who are doing storytelling in the next 3 to 5 years, I don't see them replaceable. In fact, I see them reinforcing. Storytelling is going to become more and more important. How much of customer story can you tell?
Thank you. Thank you for the insights. And so maybe just to go maybe one step further is if by taking away like your analysis, we will have some kind of hybrid model. So man and machine like helping, supporting,
Yes.
like assistants. Basically, it's more like a virtual assistant, or I guess virtual assistant, but plus with additional functionality that would enhance us, exactly as you said, with the analogy of remote work and hybrid. It's we try to take the best out of the possibilities.
Exactly.
My question is there something we could be doing currently to be aware of, to get ready to this future, or for the moment simply carry on our life as it is?
Great question. I think there are two things we need to do. The first thing, if you are a business owner, then you need to be aware of computational capability, because I come from Amazon Web Services background. Almost every day I talk to customers who have no idea how expensive and complex cloud can be unless and until you have the right skill set. They do not just understand that. So to run these machines, it will take a lot more, exponentially more amount of energy. So if you're a business owner of a certain scale, you should think about that. At least have a primer, understand your cost factors. So that's one. For customer success people, I think the second part becomes extremely important, getting the right data. My company, Softbreak, and not to sing our own pain, but the thing is that what we are doing is that we are capturing data via voice message on the phone browser from every customer touchpoint. Our hypothesis is that 97% of customer touchpoint data are not recorded. Okay, they just get lost. So we capture that and push it to a data lake. In fact, most of the conversations these days we have with head of customer support success is that you don't understand AI, don't worry about it. Start capturing your data and pushing it to a data lake, because when the push comes to shove, you will be requiring that data. So first thing we need to get really prepared is capture more data from various touch points. Store it well, because what happens often in customer success, sales, our functions, people leave. And once a good sales rep leaves or a good success rep leaves, all the tribal knowledge goes away, all the nuances go away. Okay. And because that is lost, that leads to loss of sales, that leads to loss of conversion, loss of retention, etc. So I think getting ready with data preparation is going to be the key thing. And the third is, of course, testing different applied AI models. We can talk more on that. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for the segue, because I love this allusion here. It's true that from a customer success viewpoint, when you have an advocate in a company that simply leaves the company, who evolves, and it's not your partner, your Ansprechpartner in German, like so your partner. There's a fundamental risk, because it is very likely that the customer could churn, because they say the new person will say, well, why should I work with this supplier? There are so many others, and opportunity to make an RFQ or whatever.
Yeah.
But coming back so if with this analogy, this is true as well internally. When you have exactly a great salesperson or great customer care, customer success person who leaves, it's the experience, the customer experience changes from a customer viewpoint, because it's new interaction, new partnership, everything. And this is true, it's absolutely critical. And this as a segue, I would like to thank you, because a fear of having, your partner dropping out or leaving keeps me up at night, keeps me awake at night, saying, my God. The thing is, but now I'd like to maybe revert to this question to you, is that you are, of course, you have been working in some of the most customer-centric companies in the world. I would like to understand from you and with your experience, what keeps you awake at night in for instance, the customer life cycle, or with customer success. So what is for you currently really the challenges you're seeing in your area, and particularly as you are now as well an entrepreneur, indeed, I would say, what can you foresee in terms of trends, and where we should all start to be a bit more aware in terms of, and maybe try to sleep well, be aware that we might lose sleep maybe on some topics.
No, that's a very, well, it's very intense question. Lots of stuff, keeps us awake. But I think for early stage companies like ours, often it is understanding customer need. We work a lot in telecom and in healthcare. I don't know whether any of you work in those fields. The challenge is that in telecom field, there is a fundamental awareness of technology. Our customers can imagine how it will be used. In healthcare, often the doctors or the clinicians, we work with pharma, they do not even imagine how our product can benefit them, what are the hidden benefits, and what are their unmet problems. So teasing out the need from our customer, that is a huge challenge, because otherwise they will say, this is not working. Okay, what is not working? Unpack it. So you need to have tremendous amount of patience to go one layer below, understand what are the triggers that are not working, what are the impact of that not working, and how can you best solve that. Another important point here, and this is true especially when I worked in Amazon. I was in Amazon Web Services, and the team that we were leading, we were an innovation lab. We had to do proof of concept. We had a team with us whose job was to reduce your AWS cost. It was actually there. Now it's very counterintuitive. Why would you have a team inside sales whose job is to reduce the cost of your own business? The hypothesis there is that you earn customer trust. So then you don't sell on cost, you sell on value, and you retain customers on value, the value that you are bringing. So I think now the fundamental thing that keeps me awake at night is thinking, how can we deliver the value that we have promised? There is a promised value, there is an expected value, and there is a delivered value. And if those three things are not aligned, that leads to customer churn. At least that's my hypothesis.
And can I ask, how do you do this? How do you manage to have an estimation of the value, of the perceived value in your field? For me, value is per se subjective, and it's very difficult. We know pricing, but the value is always challenging. So how do you do this?
So I think there are a couple of dimensions of value. First is we take into the financial is top line. Okay, so for example, our customers who are telecom companies, they often launch digital product and use our system for feedback. In that case, what has been the increase in net promoter score? What has been the incremental engagement or retention of customer? Things like that. So that's value number one. That's like top line delivery. For bottom line, if they are working on a project to collect data, how fast have they collected the information? What has been their savings, time savings, resource savings? So that's the bottom line value. Now, these are more financial value. There can also be a pain removal or efficiency. We use an asynchronous system instead of synchronous. People can just save time. Everybody goes home half an hour early. That's a tremendous amount of value to your organization. Okay, so you have to unpack value into money saved, money gained, time saved, you know. Maybe for some company, if you're in healthcare, you have had a drug that leads to patient life cycle increase or reduces their pain. That's another value. So you really have to know what are the value propositions well. And of course, this is very MBA 101 kind of talk, right? I mean, everybody knows we have to talk the value proposition. The challenge, the nuance that I have seen in, at least in enterprise B2B SaaS, is that the same information needs to be given to the customer in a language they understand. Okay, what you call user feedback in some companies, in pharma companies, it's called direct patient capability. Okay, they call it patient reported outcome. It's exactly the same. A patient or a user clicking on phone and giving a piece of text or voice, but they have a different name. If you get that name confused, someone in the senior management who is taking a look at your company for 10 minutes and has to run to something else, she or he is going to make a mistake. So basically personalizing that at scale, your value proposition to different types of enterprises, that is quite challenging. And it's, of course, something we all say we do, but to actually do that, it's quite hard.
I can understand. And actually, what you were referring to in the medical field reminded me one of our previous conversation in this Customer Success Association in Switzerland. It was with someone from medical, from Medtronic, actually. And he said like the challenge, so it was about bringing some new technology like robots, for instance, and camera and AI to help improving basically surgeries.
Mhm.
And he was saying that the main challenge was that, in fact, they often, the lead doctors, because it's like in medical, it's extremely hierarchical, like a pyramid. The decision maker at the very top is usually very experienced and usually less inclined to change because they say, I've been doing this for 40 years. I rely on my experience, something like this. Mm-hmm. And so the more, for instance, the younger doctors, the younger professionals who are much more keen on the change, on the bringing the new technology in to improve, for instance, or optimize the procedures. In fact, to not have this area or like the air around, in fact, or the environment in order to bring this. So the whole thing was to use some kind of tricks or not tricks, or some strategies to really manage to convince to play on those decision makers there to make sure that in fact they would not see the technology as a risk for the experience, but something like helping them. It was like a real change of mindset here.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you had as well experienced something similar, and if you have used some specific strategies exactly to manage to convince decision makers of the added value this way of your users, the value of your solution. When you explain the different set of values, yes, I can see that. But maybe someone, not irrationally, but someone like who prefers or less inclined to change would not really listen. So how would you deal with some decision makers who, for instance, are a bit more cautious, saying, I don't want, for instance, to record the conversation or something like this. So how would you deal with such in such cases and to make them see the value you can bring?
Excellent question. I'll start with a very, very short joke which will drive home the point. So the joke is that two guys go to a church and both of them are smokers. The first guy goes to the priest and says, "Can I smoke when I pray?" And the priest says, "What sort of sinner are you?" The other guy says, "Father, can I pray when I smoke?" And he says, like, "Of course, you should always pray." So this is the point. You have to understand what is your driving factor and what is your following factor. How do you want to tell the story? That's why I said storytelling is not going to die. That is going to get even more and more important. To answer your question, I think there is a couple of techniques. I don't know whether you guys have practiced some sort of these behavioral trainings. There's a lot of material available on internet. You can practice yourself also. That teaches sales techniques. First of the technique is that to listen with empathy. listen to the whole question. And it's hard, especially when a customer is not liking what you are saying. You tend to get agitated, you tend to get defensive. So how do you let go that reaction? That's first. The second thing is something called objection handling. Okay. One of the smartest technique of any objection handling is that whenever the customer says that this is something not good with privacy, I don't like it, and you say, I 101% agree. What happens is that the moment you say, I 101% agree, they did not expect it. It's counterintuitive. So inside their head, inside their crocodile brain, instead of it being a risk, it becomes something very interesting. We are hunter-gatherers. It's all subconscious. So you have already agreed to their position. No one can say no if you have said, I 101% agree with you. I see already Alfonso is shaking his head involuntarily, right?
I 100% agree with you.
Exactly. So that's why people will say, okay. So they will pause. The moment they pause, they are listening to you. Their ears are open. And then you will have a 30-second window to convince. You will say, so there, what I have found over the years, there are two techniques. If it is a B2C model that you're working in, and there is that window, you need to then show some informatics or some sort of a strong storytelling, very visual, because if you're selling an app or if you're selling online, etc., more of a self-service model, you don't have the luxury of human touch. In that window, you will have to show something, potentially a customer's testimony or a story or some big number, but one point that will break the objection. If we are doing in-person communication, in that 30-second, you will have to give example. Never say, we can do this. Because the moment you use the word we, it becomes you versus me, us versus them. Never say that. Say, one of our customers who is another company like you, and they are also very, very smart like you. You are creating relatability. They're very smart like you, and they had the same question. In that case, what we did, so it's like you and me, the third guy. Because we help the third guy, it is understood that I'm also going to help you. Never ever in a conversation make it me versus you. It is always us versus the rest of the world. That's the main thing of objection handling. If you come to that, and we get a lot of privacy related question. We have very good reference customers like Novartis and all. So we always use their name and we say, this is what we do. And then we kind of demonstrate some website, etc. If that helps. So these are the techniques. Never get into defensive mode. Listen with empathy. Do objection handling.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, I will take away this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to maybe, because of course I'll be interested. Jolt effect. Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So it's great to see like the examples resonating with our audience. What I would like to, there's one question that I had in mind. Is about if I would track a bit back on the beginning of a conversation about AI and the conversations you had, and as well your beliefs and how you see the trends and the industry evolving. For me, it's the word that is being used a lot is ethics, the word of ethics, and I think we start to put a lot, and one more time, those terms of words where a lot of expectations are put in. I know that you have been involved in this AI ethics committees and conversations and brainstorm. What I'd like to understand is, for us who are not, of course, not knowledgeable as you, how can we simply recognize? Do you have some tools or framework to simply recognize if an AI is ethical? Mm-hmm. And how, if we, for instance, one of the company want to implement a solution with some AI, generative AI, on a, I would say, attached or like interconnected, is there a framework where we can recognize, saying, okay, this type of solution with this type of AI is, for the moment, it is ethical and we can use and for instance, or those ones are made more at risk, and we should be aware of. I know that for those who were not there at the beginning of the session, I know you refer to ChatGPT and saying all the data is uploaded directly into Microsoft servers, but maybe are there some kind of framework or some easy ways for us simply to recognize this seems roughly safe, because we're not experts on this, seems like a bit more unethical or questionable?
Excellent question. So I will answer it in two parts very quickly. Then I will just touch upon the policy level, what we have discussed, and then come to more company level, which is more of our interest. See, at a policy level, often in Europe, I hear that, oh, why is this act is being drawn? This doesn't apply to us. I have grown up in a communist environment, which was under a democratic government, but still my state was communist. It was not as crazy as some of other parts of the world, but it was still fairly invasive. So you know how things can go wrong very fast unless and until there are guardrails. And the analogy that we are using a lot, we are using if you have ever gone to Formula One, especially in Monaco or Singapore, street circuit, there is a lot of guardrails. Why are the guardrails there? The guardrails are there to protect the audience and to protect the drivers in case there is a crash. Okay, so we see the AI Act framework. So they have created something called Sandbox. This is for your knowledge. You guys can take it to product teams or some friends who are already into product, that where you can test your models without any legal repercussion, and then understand whether the evidence is positive or not. Let's say you have a credit score, and after testing that, you realize that it is actually having a huge strong bias against certain ethnic group. It is something that you wouldn't know before, but without testing, you wouldn't know. So you need the testing sandbox. So this is actually one of the great things in this act they have kept at a policy level. I don't know how good the implementation will be. We will see. But at least the intent is there to keep sandbox. Okay, so that's first. At a company level, I think for business decision makers, first of all, you need to, and this may sound cheesy, but all of us kind of know what is ethical, unethical. I know we have a intuitive sense. We may ignore and all, but we all have our own North Star. We know. For example, if you are making a model that takes your healthcare data and gives the email IDs to a third party for advertisement, sure, you can make money out of it, but you know that is unethical. Okay, so things like that. So there are a few basic things that everybody knows. On top of that, Oxford University has created what you call a conformity assessment tool. It is still work in progress, obviously. I am also involved in one of these conformity assessment discussion that is going on. Nothing is ready yet. Once the act comes out, I think there is going to be conformity assessment. There is also something very interesting that is for anyone in customer success, customer conversation. You will often find a lot of these companies claiming that, oh, we are going to make a chatbot. She's called Sarah. She's so perfect. She's like human. Okay. And then I would use the word, a strong word, idiot VC has put in $2 million behind that model. All those models, like your food level, now you have that ABC model. You have to put up a model, transparency. It's a human or a chat. And that's one of the things that EU is trying to push. I personally support that position. You and I have a right to know I'm talking to a human being. For certain things, I'm absolutely fine to talk to an AI. Forget password. But I don't want an AI to give me my healthcare information by pretending to be my doctor. And that's extremely information. We have the right to decide. Okay. So like right to consent, right to independent decision making should lie with the end user. And for that, all chatbot, etc., will have transparency labeling. That is probably going to come with this act. And this is extremely important for us to remember if we are working in that field, that if you are making impersonations, any impersonation will require a labeling. Otherwise, there may be potentially heavy fines.
Wow, thank you. Actually, I really like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will use this definitely. Thank you. Like, very insightful. But like, you see, like, we started to discuss a bit about different topics, but it's time a bit to try to make them fit, because time goes by, and make them fit and along the line of customer success. And I was wondering, because with your so your curriculum, so you work in Procter Gamble, Google, Amazon. Now, actually, we can really see that you are really, really knowledgeable about the topics. Now, we clearly can really see. My question is, what if you could now talk to yourself when you started your career, like so in 2007, 2008?
Yeah.
What would you advise you to work on, that you've developed in terms of skills or qualities that are essential to be really good at, really good at, to drive customer satisfaction, so the customer value, and so on. So, what skills would you advise yourself to say work on those ones, because usually they are overlooked, and a lot of people fail, and this is very relevant, really important. What would you advise to your younger self?
Thank you so much. So one thing that I always sucked at, and when I did my MBA, I was always hanging out with the other smart guys who are better than me in it, was finance. Okay. I'm a classic techie. I get excited by new ideas, how to bring them alive. And often entrepreneurs tend to be dreamers, which is fantastic, but we suck at finance. And when you run a company, you realize that cash is the most important. Cash is king. Okay. So that is something you realize. So that was one personal realization. And over a period of time, I've done some basic financial courses, mostly got slapped by customers. And that has been a very good lesson in doing better financial management. Okay. So to take this example and to bring it in a format that is useful for our audience, there is a fantastic book called Range. Okay. If in today's world, you have to be a cross-functional expert, you need to go deep in one area, but at the same time, you need to detect pattern. What are the upcoming patterns? Okay. If you want to now become champion in Excel sheet macro, and I know a lot of people who work in investment fund consulting who are very good in their macros. The reality is that in 2 years, that is something AI will replace. So if you are the world's best macro expert, however good you are, there will be a better macro making tool. You will not be able to compete. Okay. So you need to realize what are the gaps that the markets will still have opportunity, and work towards that gaps. It's not always easy. And of course, you will not be right 100% of the time, but if you follow some great resources, and what we can do after this chat, I can share some of the blogs, etc. I tend to read a lot of sometimes paid blog for good quality investigative reports, but there are some free blogs, etc. also, where you track the future of digital, future of particular sector. Let's say you're in automobile. Okay, then you really need to know what will be the future of hydrogen fueled vehicles, combustion engines, and what will be the future of electric vehicle. You cannot just rely on diesel anymore. So things like that, really know the macro trend and drill down an area, then you will be seen as an expert in that field.
Thank you very much. I will ask you one question, and then I will leave maybe the panel open for the audience and the channel open for the audience. And my question is there a topic you wanted to discuss or to talk about tonight and that we haven't covered? So if is there something you would like to discuss now?
I would love to know from the audience, and I know some of you, is that when it comes to customer success, what has been your one great triumph and one great learning? I would really like to know that if you have. I'm really curious to hear these stories.
Please, one person at a time.
If you don't choose, I'm going to pick one.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So, do you work in any customer success or customer onboarding kind of field?
I can start.
Yeah, please.
I just have my own project, and I'm a career expert. I work with youth, so I help them to find their way in career.
Awesome.
So, and we are just team of 2 people, me and the psychologist.
Okay.
But we are already selling our a service and really passionate about it. And I'm not in IT. I'm just more in the service in the program. But now we're in a process of rebuilding our website
Mhm.
and try to understand better how to make this conversation with customers better. But my experience is not so big, and my interactions with customer, it's the best way. It's just a live conversation.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, we need to rebuild and understand how it will be better when we have more people to do it. And yeah.
Mhm. Anything that particularly stands out in your interaction because you're working with a psychologist with this youth, which by the way is a very noble mission, and I think all of us have deepest respect for that. To empower people is the highest form of service. Um, Anything that stands out, anything that we can also learn from, like, because you're essentially working with human psychology, and that's the most important part of customer success.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very important. I'm always wondering if such a huge companies like Amazon, they're working with psychologists or not, because it's just clear psychological question. So how to not to make customers to make a decision. It's not the
Mhm.
question of technician or like tech
Yes.
guys, and it's kind of some decisions in our project
Mhm.
kind of intuitive.
Okay.
Because I have experience of leading support groups. So I was working with um, people who suffering from depression.
Mhm.
So I have some experience to understand, to feel. But um, and sometimes I just make a decision. It works. And when my colleague asked me, why did you make this decision? I can't explain. I just feel that it would be cool to say like this. And when we see this, how to say, not marks, I mean, results out of our advertisement on social media, so my results are better, but I can't explain. I just intuitively feel it. That's my level of understanding. But
Fantastic. Thank you.
you said about like empathy, about ability
Yes,
to listen, so it's about it.
absolutely. Thank you. That's a great answer, Klemoya. Back to you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And maybe just Katerina, your comment about Amazon made me think of something. I think most of the people, and I'm one of them, it's not the difficult for the challenge is not about making a decision. Is that when you make the decisions to accept it, if you're right, it's great. But if you get it wrong, it's your fault. And usually, the fear of making a mistake, because the uncertainty around making a decision can really stop saying sometimes, you know what, I'm not certain yet, so I'm not making a decision. And it's true that when you look at Amazon, I noticed that in fact they made it so easy to, first of all, to purchase and to say, if you don't like it, just return it. It's simple. It's so easy that in fact it's true. I never really asked myself two times if I need something. I just purchase, and if I'm not happy, I return it. That's it. So the decision is seamless.
Mhm.
I will extract a small structured pattern out of that, and that can be useful for some of your business model, like Alfonso's model. I know of it. One thing Jeff Bezos often says, he says, middle management is the graveyard for great ideas. So what happens? Your interns have the best ideas, they bring to middle management, and middle manager is like, nah, not this year, next year. And then the enthusiasm dies. Whereas senior management is again very open to quite ideas because they literally have their P&L dependent on that. Yeah. So the interesting thing is you share your idea at the base of the pyramid. I think someone's microphone is echoing a bit.
Yeah, Katerina, I think it's yours. Thank
Sorry,
you.
thank you. So at the base of the pyramid, you can share information if you are working with a customer. At the same time, you try to reach the decision makers. Often at the middle, you find the maximum amount of resistance because department heads tends to think about their KPIs alone and not the company's overall good. There is what you call the principal agent theory that collision comes in. So go to the top, and if you need any evidence, try to convince someone to do a small proof of concept. and use that evidence to convince at the top. So that can be a tactics from a customer a conversion standpoint.
Thank you. So maybe like, is there some questions from the audience? I can pick randomly someone if you.
I think Alfonso is very shy today.
No, I don't have any questions. I think the conversation was super interesting. Going back to your previous question about triumphs and learning experiences, I was thinking of many learning experiences that we got. Like I come more from the product side,
Yes.
and one of them was something that you've actually told me before, was about the value. Get a clear understanding of what's the perceived value that you bring and what's the real value. And that was that was a key learning for me. And another one would also be that however you should think how easy it is the product that you build, it can be easier because some clients will not understand. So you need to keep making it easier and easier and make some really clear infographics, as you said. So that's something that I could also like agree on. Yeah, just wanted to add this to the conversation.
That is a great point, actually, because and that also leads to the point, if you are any customer success or any business, you have to know who to say no to. Like, for example, if you are health tech and there are some doctors who are just not agreeing to it, at some point you're gonna drop the towel and say, this is not my thing, I cannot. You need to walk away from the conversation. That's also okay. You have a limited amount of time and energy. You cannot waste it on customers who are not early adopters. So you need to kind of focus more on early adopters. And I think all of us doing any sort of enterprise SaaS, we always face it. There are customers who would, whatever you do, they're like, no, not for us.
Yeah, and some customers will always say, no, it needs to be better, it needs to be this feature needs to be there already, otherwise I won't use it. Then you need to really think, do we really need it, or can we go live with just this solution? So this is something that I've been learning in the last few months. It was my focus to say, okay, how do I say no to some new features? Yeah, can relate to that a lot.
This reminds me of a joke. It's I have a friend who got married 2 times, and those 2 times there was two big failures. First, his first wife dumped him, and the second wife stayed. It's the same with customers, you know.
That's a bad one, but okay.
But it's sometimes, in fact, it's better that some customers shouldn't be customers.
I think that is very true for all entrepreneurs. I know, Katrina, you're also an entrepreneur and trying to scale. That is the question, to know who to say no to. And it's entrepreneurs are greedy by nature. We want all, and you will not be able to do all. So it's absolutely fine to say no.
And about AI as well, and programming. When you refer to say like you don't learn programming because in 2 years AI will be better than anyone in programming. That's like it's your opinion, of course. It's not like that. I completely understand this because actually a couple of days, 2-3 weeks ago, I had suddenly an idea of a product and say like there's a gap in customer success, and say, oh, actually, why we don't do this? So it's not to make an assessment on the market, say, but there's no such solution. So I started I said, but I'm not that good in JavaScript, so I used ChatGPT to say, okay, can you start to program to create the MVP? So I spent 2 days actually creating the first version of the MVP, and then after 2 days, I realized why I realized after by using the MVP why it couldn't work, why actually there was no such solution on the market, and say, well, because actually it's not practical and so on. And I got it. I got the lesson. But the thing is, what was crazy is that in fact, alone with ChatGPT, I could create my without programming anything. I just gave the instruction. I want this. I want that. I want a button here. I want a tab to open, and so on. He did it.
That's a fantastic example. If you look at the history of creating visual mocks, we used to draw things on paper. From there, we had Adobe and all. right? PDF were the first, then PowerPoint with animation. Now we have then Canva, and now we have reached ChatGPT. So basically, our mocks are getting more and more real life-like. Just like video today, computer games, EA Sports, FIFA 20 years back used to be like very wooden players. Now there you cannot differentiate between TV on Twitch. So similarly, our mocks are getting real life-like, which I think will keep on happening. Important thing is to remember is that this is all mock and they're not actual product deployment. So, and that's where actually I think the existing architects, etc., will bring value.
So maybe one more question from the audience, if there's any.
Yeah, I'll just go.
Please, please.
Just a question, maybe not directly to the topic. The influence of personal brand to customer. How it's important for smaller companies, or does it really influence?
For me, two words, very important. You have to choose your channel and build your reputation there. I am extremely active in LinkedIn, and I do a lot of content. The thing is that it is content that I have lived through, usually authentic content, and it's something that I really feel about. Like tomorrow, I'm going to write about IT professionals, okay, and how IT professionals have become barrier to adoption of technology. I learned it. I literally saw this, and like I'm going to write about it. So write about stuff that you think are right. Sometimes don't give names, but even if it is something polemical, it's fine. And that drives your personal brand, and people kind of figure out authenticity after a few times. I get a lot of decision makers who even in Rome, people one level below Ursula von der Leyen knew me simply because of LinkedIn. It's crazy. So you have a tremendous amount of reach, and paid reach is getting less and less. You have to pay a lot more now. To build your brand, you really need to have authentic content. So that way, personal brand is extremely important, at least in my experience.
But if I may just add to comment to you, Katerina, let's suppose that. So, Gaetano, you could please switch off your microphone, please, Gaetano. No worries. It's you have some skill sets and what you do. I'm pretty sure you are excellent at what you do, Katerina. The thing is, if nobody knows that you exist, nobody knows what you do.
Yeah.
The likelihood someone says, I have this need, I'm going to contact a Katerina, is inexistent. It's impossible to find you because nobody knows you.
Probability, yes. Absolutely. Sorry, I think Aditya had a question, right?
Yes, Aditya, yeah, correct.
Yeah, thanks, Romit. It's really very, very great and then intuitive to know about more about the generative AI. So the question that I had in my mind is the difference between the predictive AI and the generative AI to start with. And coming to your questions on my triumph and my learning in the CS. So my triumph is that I have segregated the customer success in terms of the value versus risk. So by the way, I'm managing the CS teams in Salesforce across India. So here, whenever I segregate the customers based on the risk versus value approach, and whenever they give more value and less risk, that is where my first shot will be. And whenever the risk is high, the value is less, that is where I would try to put up the least attention. So that is my triumph. And then my learning is, taking feedback extremely seriously because there were so many cases where I tried to delay the feedback and then I had to pay a lot of price for that. So this is my learning and then triumph. And if you can just elaborate more on this predictive AI and generative AI, and what is the next of generative AI, the next version of the generative AI, that would be of great help.
Excellent. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That's a great way. I will also remember that value versus risk and finding the velocity of value and velocity of risk. That's great. Predictive is, as the name suggests, is the current pattern based. So we use something called BERT model, where you understand various context and try to predict the next context. Okay. The way generative AI, or as so OpenAI today says, is that it can do context matching from a very, very broad set. So I can talk today about phone, and it can match between I'm talking about my phone, but I am actually traveling to Korea and my SIM card doesn't work. So this level of context assimilation is already available as per ChatGPT 4. That's what OpenAI claims. I don't know. Okay. The challenge is that when it comes to application in a business, there are two risks. Okay. There is value. And the value is that, you can deliver answers to your customers better. The risk is that there is a tremendous amount of false positive. Okay. ChatGPT 3 by its own admission at 30% plus false positive. We work in healthcare. You cannot tell 30% of your patients that have some wrong medicine. If you do it as a pharma company, you are dead. You just can't do that. So that's the risk. Generative AI has still a tremendous amount of false positive. It doesn't understand complexity. And with this data fortresses being built, everybody's realized data is the oil that is running this boat. So if you cut off the data pipeline, it's same as like the Ukraine war. They have realized if they cut off the gas pipeline, that impacts everything. So data is the gas here. And the moment the data will be cut, I actually think it's going to get quite hard to build better and better models. So that's the risk, and that's why you still need to keep a certain amount of human guardrail around broad context and not rely too much on generative AI, applied AI as at this moment. That's my my hypothesis.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
Thank you
Romit.
very much.
Maybe one last question, Gaetano. You raise your hand, and
Yes.
then we will go. I'm just
Yes,
conscious of
I
time.
have a I have a really brief question.
Please.
On my side, I'm a customer success manager, and
Right.
I have a huge experience as a customer success manager. And I have a question because we spoke a lot about generative AI, and my question was, according to you, and according eventually the KPI that you are using to measure health of your customer, to measure the satisfaction of your customer base, what will be the impact of AI in that? Because, for example, the fact that they are satisfied with the fact that they receive quick answer, that these answers are satisfying, when there are a full human activities behind, of course, it's something that you need a KPI to measure it. But when there's the generative AI, you imagine that as an automatical learning process that it's already training itself while it's performing. So you don't need to adjust anything with training people later on. So how do you see the impact that the AI may have on the usual KPI that so far we're using, something that it's honestly there in companies since ages, but that now may change? So what's your outtake on that? That's all.
Great question. First of all, a candid admission, I don't have too much of a take on that because there is so much of different signals coming from this field. Okay, I will tell you two scenarios, the optimistic one and the less optimistic one. Okay, let's look at scenarios. The optimistic scenario is that that generative AI will be able to handle queries of much more complexity. If we have query between forget password at level 1 and changing a ticket around the world ticket at level 10, generative AI will take the current chatbots from level 4 to level 7. That's one. Okay, that's the more optimistic thinking. The not so optimistic thinking is that because of data constraint, this will not be enough. There's another factor here. All of us take a chatbot less seriously than a human being. Today, instead of me, if it was a chatbot or my impression, as good as it will be, we have been conditioned, raised to listen to human beings. You are not conditioned to listen to AI. Simply not. So what will happen? Let's say, again, I'm here with Alfonso, but I know him well. He's a product manager, super smart. If I am his sales guy and I come and say, Alfonso, Katharina is my customer and she says this feature we built is sucks, he will listen to me. I can bet my money on this. If there is a chatbot that comes and dances on his screen and says, customer said this, you should do it, he will be like, tomorrow afternoon I'll do it. And it's not gonna get done.
Can I disagree with you?
Please,
Like,
please.
Okay, do you remember years ago when people would argue about stuff, and then one guy would say, "Hey, I read it on Google," and then I say, "Okay, Google said that." I think it would be the same thing with ChatGPT and some crazy guys.
Okay. So see, so that's a great, I don't know, it's a valid point. People will take then Alfonso's hypothesis is that people will take the chatbot impression or that AI impression seriously. My hypothesis at this moment is that people take human feedback more seriously. The jury is still out. We will see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are reaching the end of this conversation. So actually, for you, Romit, Ram, I have maybe two very brief questions. The first question is, how can the attendees find you? Where can I find you?
I can give my LinkedIn. That's the easiest. Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way. Honestly, LinkedIn and email are the way I stay connected with everybody all the time.
Perfect. Thank you. And the second question for closing is in 100, we don't know how the world will be in 100 years from now. Okay. And let's say that, how would you like to be remembered in 100 years by the new pioneers and the new generations? How would you like to be remembered? What would you like to say to this next generation of humans that we don't know yet, not yet born? What would you say, like, for them to as an advice or as a bottle in the sea? A message in a
Thank
bottle.
you so much. So there is this fantastic book called 4,000 Weeks, right? Assuming an average human lifespan is 80 years, you live for 4,000 weeks, and what you can do in that. So I read that book. It's a very powerful book. I recommend 4,000 Weeks. And for me, only one word now makes sense, is that impact. What impact can you leave? So I strive to work for impact. That's why I'm working on this AI Act. I'm interested in some climate-related activities, etc. So I just want to be remembered as someone who brought net positive impact. Net positive impact would be the ultimate goal.
Romit, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for your insights, for your humility, for actually this moment that was really, 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 I would say, impactful. I can say that's the right word. Thank you so much, and
pleasure.
We'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Absolutely. Everybody have a good evening. Take care. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. This was super great.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Super awesome. Bye.